All right, so now we get into the Russian Revolution, and this is a very interesting section. It's something that I'm kind of interested in. If you've ever seen the movie Anastasia, this is all about Russia. Okay, so she was a princess in Russia, and we'll talk about a little bit about that. So I also mentioned in the last section of notes, or the couple back, about military coups. Okay, and so we're going to talk about how Russia, the Tsar, is overthrown, and we enter communism. So they go from a monarchy to communism. And this is very short. So the Russian Revolution. So from 1613 to 1917, Russia was a monarchy, which is known as an autocracy. So that means one ruler. It was ruled by the Romanov family, and it was ruled by a czar with absolute power. Now, a monarchy can also be compared to a dictatorship. Okay, so they're in that same family. Autocracy just means it could be one person, it could be an oligarchy. We get into that in my government class. So let's discuss Russian czars. A czar is just another name for their king or queen. So I'm going to get his name wrong, but I think it's Mikhail Romanov, ruled 1613 to 1645 as the first Romanov czar. We also have Peter the Great, who ruled from 1696 to 1725. And then you have Catherine the Great, who rules from 1762 to 1796. What you also need to know about the Romanovs is that they were actually related to several other kings and queens of various European countries. They were also related to the royal family of Great Britain. This was because during this time, they wanted to make sure that royal bloodlines stayed intact. So you would have people who were a princess of one country marrying into another family or another monarchy of another country. And that's how these people were related. What about the people of Russia? So you had, like we said, the monarchy where you had a king or a czar. Most Russians were part of the working class, or they were known as peasants. They were the lower class of society. They didn't have a lot of pay. They often went with little or no food. They didn't have any rights if they had any. Basically, their lives were very hard. And this is kind of an example of how they dressed. It also shows a little bit of how they lived. Notice this woman doesn't really have shoes on there. So Russia enters World War I in 1914. Tsar Nicholas II, he forces the working class and peasants to join the army. So there is no, hey, let's sign up for the military, I'm going to go join and fight. No, the government forces them to join. And it's not the upper class people that are forced to join, it's the working class and the peasants. The problems is that they were not trained to fight. They had no experience with this. They also were sent to battle without food. Many of them didn't have shoes, and they also were not given weapons. So this kind of gives the, impression that it's not going to go well for these guys, okay? What were the effects of this? Approximately 2 million of these men were killed in battle. Another 5 million were wounded. Russian citizens did not have enough food to eat. Russian citizens did not have enough coal to keep warm. And overall, the people of Russia were very unhappy. So what happens is we have a revolution, which is kind of like an uprising, okay? So the Russian people, blamed Tsar Nicholas II for ignoring the fact that many Russians were getting killed, were wounded, and were struggling. They felt like he really didn't care about the people. So the working class, the men and women, they filled the streets to strike, and they showed their unhappiness with the government. Now, again, these are not riots or anything like that. They get that way. And originally, they started to kind of show a little bit of just actual protesting. Then it kind of turned to some riots. So as a result, he sends his army to end the riots. The soldiers were actually outnumbered and they began to mutiny against the Tsar. So the soldiers were aggravated that they were outnumbered by the people and they turned on Nicholas II. Tsar Nicholas II abdicated his throne on March 15th, 1917, and he and his family were then captured. Abdicated means he left, he fled, and then later he and his family were captured. I think we talk about it in this. Yeah. Oh, no, please don't tell me they don't go over it. I'll show you a little bit about it because I don't think it's going to go over it. So after this, we have the Bolshevik Revolution. This is October of 1917. And keep in mind, this was all taking place during World War I. So a new government took over after Nicholas II left the throne. Many say that he was forced to leave. Another revolution occurred much later. Vladimir Lenin was the leader of the Communist Bolshevik Party. He was also the man behind the assassination of Nicholas II's entire family. So, what is communism? It says a political and economic system in which productive resources in a society, factories and farms, for example, are owned by the government and wealth is distributed to the citizens, either equally or based on individual need. This is not a good thing. Communism is not good. It's not fun. It's not something that is looked at as favorable, okay? But I also would argue that the monarchy system of government that was in Russia prior was also not favorable. It's hard to explain in this class. We do go into communism in depth in my government class. So remember that farmers in Russia did not own the land on which they farmed. Lenin promised to distribute the land to the farmers so they could own it, and this made them happy. However, if you see here, how is this communism if farmers can own land? They can't own the land. We'll get into that. Lenin told the farmers they were getting their own land to own. However, after he came to power, he told the farmers what to do and how to do it. So that means they didn't really own the land, the government did. The farmers soon realized Lenin only told them what they wanted to hear. So if the government owns the land, there is no such thing as private property. The farmers didn't own it. The government did. So that means they decided what actually took place. Okay? So Lenin led the Bolshevik Party to a complete takeover of Russia's government. The effects: Lenin ordered Nicholas II and his family to be executed. Lenin then made himself a dictator. So that, not what they wanted. They went from a monarchy, which was essentially a dictatorship, to another dictatorship under now a communist regime, which was forceful and not what they wanted, okay? A peace treaty was signed with Germany to withdraw from World War I, so they actually get out early. Russia lost land rich in national resources and farming to Germany through that treaty. And you have what is known as the Soviet Union is born. Russia was no more, as Lenin established the Soviet Union in 1922 as the first communist country in the world. The Soviet people would suffer for many years to come and are still suffering underneath this. So, I just want to show you really quickly. So this is the Grand Duchess Anastasia of Russia. So this is the Tsar's family. And if you've ever seen the Disney movie, I highly recommend you watch it. It's very interesting. Now it's not historically accurate at all. Okay, but basically, I can put a little link because there's something I want you to watch about this. It talks about how the Romanov family, Romanov family execution. Okay, I know this sounds bad, guys, but I'm sorry. Alright, so the Russian Imperial Romanov family were shot and bayoneted to death by communist revolutionaries on the night of July 1918, 16 through 17. Also killed that night were retainers who had accompanied them. So this is, I might be able to just link this video, because like I said, if I show this in my video, it will get copyright striked and it'll, you won't be able to watch it. But again, this is something if you want to look into. It's very interesting. Some of these little pieces and bits of history, it just really gets you. And I remember watching Anastasia as a kid, and so this is one of those things that I was kind of interested in. So I highly recommend you watch that. I'll add like a little link in this section if you want to watch the Romanov execution. Okay, and that is it.